Tâm kiến tu chế cho chế sung trung với chế cứ chế công chung bộ sự kiện đồng bộ nào là chế về nhà chế cho với cho lo cứ cho thế chúng yêu vô sự tu chế chính của tự mà chế 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 của chế độ tâm chế sẽ có cứ chế 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 nhà mình điều chế chế cứ cho thế我们就接人家广东的这种商界遇见我你，都是就是我从东这边在那面向那个家的，那就这个东西今天呢，这里我们就我公司的，这这东边就见成北方，什么路啊，他们今天也是那么应该也给到了东南去。同道道灭见到呢，多个觉得给见到嘛，他们给的大给就的。Good morning. Good morning. Long time. No see. Yeah, sorry. Happy to see you all. ทีนี้ที่เราว่าถ้าจะทำดังกับสุจุดงกุจิทีนี้ทุกยอมมาอีนยังก็ตัดถึงยังงานส่วนเดียวพาโซทุกยาละเป็นเขาชงส์
Although it's been a very long time since we all were connected, um, right now it is really wonderful, though, that we are finally able to come together once again.
这个呢，一旦我是听的话，就他的啊，不，经常不能考上样的呢，就 up and down，不，常常奥地也会有，常常也不美，天地用过药的，天地他这个呢，一个个就 individual，当我做没天地上了，个常常被直播流。天地用过药的，常常被那当我做 pandemic，那这都是洋国家生活中就用过药的话，因为洋他这个就是用药头长嘛，觉得让人的就差别多，天地因为洋他提供了我做国家来干业头长嘛，动来去，他呢这个呢也可以个就。nhằm lên thật là yang son no tang ne yang nga so cham cham lo mong bo tu yo ma de yang cham cham yang nyam ton zum yo de sten de ne ko nyam ton zum ya ti ya ne ka wo chung
So it's been really interesting in the world. Sometimes in the world, things are up, and sometimes things are down. Sometimes things are okay. Sometimes things are not so. Individually, we've all had different situations. Maybe some of us have had times and situations of happiness and joy. On the other hand, everybody has had some experience of the pandemic, and maybe people have uh, experienced sickness and other kinds of misfortunes and various other things. And so these are things that have naturally occurred, and we've all experienced these things. And so uh, uh, on top of this, though, we have our practice that we can do, um, in wanting to help others and so forth in such situations. And so, also in addition to that, even though it's been many years that we've been apart, uh, some of us had been together and some of us had been apart. Well, now we've all been able to come together. And so this is very nice that we've all been able to come together again.
어디 일이다 드네. 다 대가 나이 그 진가랑 다 냠뇽 세나리 칼라비나 다 지켄디 키나라 레카 도고야 몽보지 요레 드네 대가 나이 키가 가서 알세고다 왜 이 도고야 K 첨부로 오지 다고 카운터라 countless 베모모 요로와 이내 양다 디 나네 지금원에 에다 보자 체쇼로 오데 K 체쇼로 오데 아차디 요르스나 지 군냠len 체야 그러와 리차디 요레 스티냠 카김세 카리스 휴비나 다 지용전에 다 지치모포게 토네 다지 개탕다 고마저 참래 지 칼세 거래 컴포터블 용거와 칼세는 가서 뒤chen 대사 사야 동야 그래서 센티미리나 지 개탕다 야보래 이내 양다 디 지부게 지 칼세 거래 세치말아요 지 키로야다 워탕 대가나 이게 나 칼세고 맞아 지 authentic 라브라다 틴디 happiness 도용야라 테 양면 된다고 지 차디어서레스
So, for ourselves in this way, uh, we have this experience in this world, and in this world, we have to do, uh, all different types of jobs and activities, and we might wish to accomplish all these things in the world, and it is necessary to fulfill, some of these things, to do our jobs and to do our, various activities in our careers and so forth. However, within that context, then the most important thing is that we also practice. And the reason is once we gain some understanding of what's really going on, although it's nice to have comfortable things and it's nice to have a place to stay, food and drink, to eat and drink, and uh, various other types of comforts. And it on one hand, it's without those things, it's really difficult. But even though we might have those, it's important to really look beyond that, because all those things that we might acquire in this life through our various jobs and activities, we can't take with us into future lifetimes. And so, if we're really striving for authentic happiness and joy, then we really need to recognize that practice is the way that we can gain benefit beyond just this life.
我在点的听我就接当往那个有了的，讲什么就是什么听你大哥老嘛，有人不你们俩今天到听你讲下这些，就见到往都什么蒙古头在也是的，都那个往一那样的做往谁呀的的就同当着我的就蒙不就有啥意思？
Um, so today, there are a lot of uh, long-term dedicated students, and there is an empowerment today. But many of you have probably received uh, many empowerments, also Tara empowerments, and so forth. And so, importantly, though, uh, even though there are um, uh, you may have received these. The meaning, there are many meanings behind the empowerment.
Tene ta tso karsana ta jitanga tso ta nyamle chi nyunge chirang soke ta koha kogro wata maro ta jitanga tso shida pa magong kengi na tene penna cha xiawi na tanda tene kap saba tila tene dunme ke wang cha di yor wate tene ta chik tis chik kari yor sena nga tso namto sena re chik samsu sena re tila karndi re sena chik o durma thang 다 즉, 나라니 보티 디스직 가르세고 만다와 다른 보도 즉 로와 다도 만다위나 지니제케 sam고요로와 텐두 레 다코직 relative level this 담만다와 요리 이네 다 왕세야 tel라 가르치고 있으나 다 제탕 그 제탕 친하고 소고 요리 이네 딱 내가 체효한테 가르세나 tene penna durme ke otatela andika.
So the most important thing that we can find here, though, is that in our practice, when we wish to practice, in particular, the practice of Tara is a useful practice that we can do that we can access quickly. When we have various thoughts, worries, and so forth, we can invoke Tara. And so we might think in the beginning that, Tara and ourselves are kind of distant. And relatively, this is sort of the case. It might seem that, Tara is out there and we are here. However, when we talk about an empowerment, we can describe an empowerment as something like a blessing. However, the most important part
Oda tila karsanata karla uyores lavina da ke chesho te tene da nga so jetang tanda da chik kusung to ke da jenang lavore da kusung to de tonda karla uyore lavina mon tambe ke mola tene chik pena durmek kotang tene durmek sum durmek to 영골 학벌 들게 되네 그 돌메이크 톡다 되네 nga zo ki ju la simju shidewari bi ningbo da la 되네 ko yermewa tene jik sonya da yermewa ji ha ko bo ya da ga na ji da wa na se du 되네 ji da connection da oji ro ji durma da 되네 가서 돌메이크 톡 tu ikiak tun tiye dewa na oji pena cha shaawina da jinga zo tanda da korbandi kina la jewa lendi yore tiyeni da nga zo ko ji lele ene nga zo soji chobdi yorwa ina soji da ko ji temporary na wo soji chadi yore tiyeni nima ji tiyeni nga zo ji da xebe ne kaula tiyeni da tugi 쟁점되고 소리들이 즉 줄메게 샘방 yermewa oda tindije ke yungleseya 단단히 지 preparation 도지 prepare chibiores 지 나토다 라메 원어 모투치 원세야 되다 tindije chibiore 전합치 디디 돌아되네 라나소소게 individual cooperative 냠레 familiar 차이나 네 타만디 다니 공시가 나기래 되네 제가 또 시민의 가을라더니 투기 적등된로와 보다 틀리 용도에서 됐어.
So then, the most important part, the most important thing, the key point, though, with empowerments is that we are given the blessing of the enlightened body, the enlightened speech, and the enlightened mind, in this case of Tara. And the blessing in this case is really the ultimate nature of ourselves. We are introduced to the ground of our own essence. The ground is called the Sugata Garbha, or also called Buddha nature. And when we are introduced to this Buddha nature as Tara, we see that ultimately our own essence and the nature of Tara are inseparable. And so this empowerment connects us to our own Buddha nature. This empowerment connects us in that way to the enlightened mind of Tara that is essentially uh, hidden within ourselves. And so in cyclic existence, uh, we have taken up a lifetime as a human, and we've acquired this human birth through our different karmic actions and different conditions and so forth. However, when we die, one day when we die, then at that point, if we train in recognizing this nature of Tara within ourselves, if we train in connecting with Tara's mind, then we will become inseparable with Tara uh, at the time of death. And so this empowerment is a preparation for that. This empowerment is an introduction, is a blessing that introduces us to how to recognize and cultivate the nature of Tara within ourselves in our own individual practice. And so, if we do practice receiving this blessing empowerment and cultivate this inside of ourselves, then when we die, then we will be able to merge our minds inseparably with Tara.
wada tindiji keta yang samre nga tsu ta tindiji chagi yona minanda oji samgarwa nga tsu ta maungpa la chik sanji giri tang ma re tang tine chik tindu ta ti ta so karsena di samno ji tangu yu sari ta nga tsu tangi kong hyuwa na yi nga tsu chik sanji ki tok senari ta tanda kap sabala drunme ke tok ni sumi ba yuanten tamchi tang denda ba ji nga tsu ju lu yuwa de ko karse kore ta sanji ki tok ni sumi ba te yora ba te yoba re o te indu ko tele kaan sena ji chilo je ne ya tok goya tene ji yo ma re te yoyo ba re yene ya ta ko ji nga tsu tele udo temporary obscuration da nga tsu ju li yo re te indu ta zo che sho di arse kore da nga tsu da nyong mo mo ji yo ba re te indu ta ne ka ke nyong mo ba de ji cha dang ma se ya da zo karse na ma je da dun zin ba so le da dang zi te la da dang zi ma re ba la na le kan da tele de ne te ne ji ni sun zin bi lo or ni sun zin bi lo de ji nga tang xian se ya ji da tang xian se ya ji da ti karse gore da de ba se na ne ka ma zo ma tong ya di te cha de yo sar wa
So, in this way, it's also important not to just think, oh, in the future, Buddhahood is this thing far outside of myself. Um, Ultimately, our own mind and the nature of the enlightened mind of the Buddhas are all inseparable in our own mind stream. And we have this inseparable nature of our own minds and the minds of all the Buddhas that is within us. However, outwardly, uh, it seems that we haven't realized this, that we haven't, um, or excuse me, outwardly, this is not something that we can attain. We only attain this when we recognize it inwardly. However, we have temporary obscurations. We have many afflictive emotions. We have what are called temporary attachments and aversions. We have self clinging, the ignorance of self clinging, the ignorance of dualistic fixation. And so we have these obscurations of thinking there is a self and others.
Tēnī tā tsāri tēsāṃ karo yāng, ko dāng zī zī tā jī ngā tsō lā kāng yāng, tēnī jī rāng rāng lā yā, ngā rāng jī pēn health lā sō bā tēnī, sā mō kāng hu gu mā rē, slā gu yō mā rē, tēnī sāng jī jim tēnī kē sōng dō wā, tēnī tēn jōr jī mū lū rōmbō chī sōng rē, tēlā yāng tā gu jā gō rē sōng rē, tēgā nā yī kē tēnī jī tā lū dē lā ngō sāng nō tāng nā yāng sāng sāng Luin de la cagne di siorwa, luin de la ten, le camambo, yoretina yang, Sanji Jim den de Kitene, Carson Sena, Kisi luin de Dado, Tongo Yona yang, da, Titanis, Tsumcha, some Choranke, Luin de la ten, and Calemambo, Jagi Ore, Jagu Yorwa, Tindi, something at all, that luin di Tonda, Pale Shusto, some Dado, Tongo Yona yang, Titani, Tsumcha, some Lutene, Lut Monetone. Lui te la yang, be jie te chi, lui te la yang da, chi ko na tan ru chung gu na me sa ya la so ba re. De ga na ye ko kala sa tan yin na de yang, lui te la yang, ko da ho jia gu yo re, sam gu gu.
And so, even though we have this self-clinging and so forth, we aren't helpless. And so the Buddha taught that we have a precious human life with freedoms and advantages. And so we might think sometimes, oh, I do have this human body and so forth, but it's just problematic. This body, it might be, ill, or it might not feel well, and we might get frustrated with having a body. We might even think of our body, as sort of like our enemy that we have to deal with. However, this is not how we should really think about the body. We should do whatever we can to, if there are illnesses, to treat those illnesses with medicines. We should, make sure we have good food and drink and exercise and so forth, so that we can sustain this precious human birth.
Da ti du da kare go yo re slavina, hana kong shu na yire. Ko ji khar se go da ji samno tang hang ji dang action ni po this kind of la separation do ji ro wa hana kong shu na yire ko so ko ne physical cha di ro wa physical te le ji jong chi ya kala sa ya la so on 다 same cái tình này có chỉ rể thằng nào cũng thế là chỉ cần đi nào là thế này thằng nào phải cái thế là có nát sa dùng cái rồi ta có game đồ cái rồi có thiên đi dùng cái rồi vậy thì ý này yang same cái tình là ta có chỉ khởi sự cái Nupa rồi mà cho thấy là top lâu đó xem thì top lâu là top sẽ chỉ là Nupa sẽ chỉ không có đấy ta top thằng Nupa thì khẳng định race là vì nó thế xem cái top thế là thế này chỉ cái lưỡi cái cổ quan trọng mình đâu à xem cái top thì cái ta bên này cha vì nó chỉ anh đã na xem bắt thấy là xem tem béo wow có chỉ 양나 단다 현나 히 samban다고 다지 간디 중비나 양고 지금 만도와 로 간디지 중이나 중나 중 samban다고 지로 중는 가와라고 지 중는 기본라고 지 근데지 케시 요비나 근데 그 샘게 똑당 느파티게 근데 단다 physical 다 가서 간여도 정말 디스 동련로야다 근데 reduce 차로야 제가 나이다 좋은 거저 추도야디 가르스나 대화토야게 대화토야게 치도래 근데 인도 이제 그뒤이나요 뭐지 샘게 주라 근데 즉 대화 대치 세그로와 즉 어, 이제 가와 세나리 대화 세나리 근데 이제 꼭 말아와도 거지 그러고 라마도 거지 not losing even though 즉 physical 나기요나리 야만은 something going on like 간디데 problem로 용기요나리 그 텔라 그 가두이나 remind 그 no matter how many going on 지기요나 그 샘디 주텔라 되네 그 디지털 아마송 가르쳐나 나나 디스코 기기 우롱치네 디스틱 프로바지 랩톱이야 야만나 파기를 프로블럼 제기오이네요 프로블럼 텔레테네 되네 에지 가르쳐버래 야 리마인드 나서지 대화 지바 텐디 용량다고 지 따티 냠len 냥가 첨보로 차디오레스 텐도다 조 가르쳐는 것으로 양고 학벌들께 그 상아 냠len 챙겨와 상아 세야디 어떻게 돼요?
So, what should we do? What we should do is, even though our bodies experience all different types of things, our bodies, might experience, all the different experiences of sickness, getting old, all different types of physical scenarios can arise that cause discomfort and so forth. However, in our minds, we can cultivate a power, we can cultivate a strength that goes beyond uh, falling into being the victim of just these physical ailments. And so when we develop this mind power, then even though our bodies might experience, various physical difficulties, still in our minds we can think, well, if I get sick, oh well, I get sick. If I die, well, I die. But uh, in our minds, we can have a strength that goes beyond that. Some practitioners might even get to the place where so-called undesirable situations that would happen physically become a cause for bliss and joy because they are able to transcend the mundane physical problems and ailments through the power of the mind. And so, for ourselves, when we cultivate our mind power, then at the very least, we can begin to reduce the difficulty that we experience physically with our body. And through practicing the Dharma, then we can experience happiness and joy in our minds. And so, no matter what happens, we can cultivate and sustain this joy in our mind stream. And so, here, the key thing is to hold in our minds this joy and happiness that arises through our practice. Even though we might experience various physical experiences, through having this mental remembrance, through cultivating our practice, which reminds us of our own true nature, then we don't need to lose this strength of our mind. And so, no matter what problems arise, we are able to overcome them mentally through our practice. And so, this is part of the essence of practice as a secret mantra practitioner.
我的定律，定律这个，的卡塞罗的，我 same 个，就当地光学那我的定律，当我做定律这有病呢，这呢，一般呢吃下病呢，当 same 个多当，哪怕有我当，他当念的了，这呢，就先去在我他那念老板那一类去。Kanye khari chungbi na yang, kanye thi la tene, pena cha cha rang la natsa ndo yuwi na, ko natsa thi yang tene, rang ka natsa yuwa tene, hen la natsa yor, chikwa chik shang yor, nga yi, nga tsoli duga na nagi yorwa. Hindi til tis nyingje ji to ya, pe nyingje ki yang, tindi yung to ya. Ta nga hi ka rang kanye tidu, hen la kanye ha ko to ya. Wada tindi ji chidu, ko kharse de, jengen lam tong se na de, yang ma na ko, kanye tele ko transform chalo yo sa des te ma to samen samen ga so kanye khaya me na mu kanye yo de hira ko marwa ra ya kanye khare khaya me bi na tene ti pen ra la tene ti pe sha kanye me bi na hen le pe sha yo nge la pe sha me nge la ne kanye khare yo sam sa ha ko mo do ko ta ti kwa ngi de ndo som do wa yin ya ngara pe sha me bi na tene hen le kanye ti du hen le pe sha me nge ti la ko kanye khande yo ha ko ro 뭐 디게 출발텔라야 랩티 때문에 간다 출발 강에 디게 고디 디게 강에 디라야 맞죠 닝지게야 그러와 근데 정비나 근데 맞죠 그 주라 간다 가두이나야 지 and the contributed peace happiness noted 뭐 라로 그래서 말이스
So, here in our minds, when we cultivate this power, when we cultivate this strength, then no matter what problems arise, no matter what sicknesses arise in our bodies, then we are able to take them onto the path. Furthermore, when, for example, we get sick, we can look at that sickness and see that even though we might be experiencing some illness, other people have illnesses that are even worse. And so, if we think about the illnesses of others and reflect on our own sickness, then we can use our own sickness as a method to cultivate compassion. We can think, oh, just like I am suffering, even other people and greater numbers of people all over suffer even more. Furthermore, uh, if we don't have any difficulties in our life, if we don't have any problems or negative circumstances at all, then it could be difficult to really reflect on the problems and sufferings of others. For example, if somebody is born into a wealthy family and always has access to wealth and different material possessions and so forth, they don't know what it's like to be poor. However, if you do experience a time where you don't have a lot of money and so forth, then you can reflect on all the other people throughout the world that experience degrees of poverty and times without money and so forth or resources and develop compassion. And so, in this way, no matter what experiences arise, when misfortunate circumstances arise, whether it's sickness or different other problems with the material world or other kinds of negative experiences in our life, when these arise, we can utilize our practice to not just focus on our own situation, but reflect on how others experience these difficulties too. And it can be a way that we cultivate compassion. And so, in this way, no matter what happens, the important thing is to try to take it onto the path so that we don't lose our inner peace and happiness and equilibrium.
어디 다 닝제초 지용비 깝라. 근데 다 탑이야 쇼텐 콘티와랑 이래 가서 지 차단한테 똑같으니 그 리듀스 된 칼리티스. 그 닝제야 제 닝제 진 땡 콘티와나 이래 지 가서 그 주라. 근데 지 샘기 주네 되네. 지 또통 누바 기게 또네 되네. 지 야, 용비 깝라. 되네. 닝제 지용 거래. 닝제 지비나 되네 다 가서나 지 다든 짐바 다든 짐베 티견치네 되네 다 차단 걸로 되네 칼레 메가 차고 요서와 어다 드리치네 고 뭐래다 되네
So really here, compassion is one of the best methods of all. It's a method by which we can reduce our attachment and our aversion. And so when we cultivate our mind power and give rise to compassion, it causes us to really overcome and overwhelm our self clinging. It causes us to go beyond our attachment and our aversion.
어다디 다 차단지와라 갈 콘티와나 이래 되네 차단디 다 냠내 되네 치고 다 대가 나지게 다조 갈서는 것다 동다소 뉴샤나 기타 넘베 추라다 베네가 덴조라 소고베 지 추모모 여러와 얘네야 보다 interesting데 그 냠렘베 갑라 휴지 라냠 직디 또 정말 해주치야 다 제당 가서 지 아추 그더 나라 돈이 걸어만 보여래 레진데 걸어만 보여래 다 근데 베티케 뭐 보여래 디네야 돈다 그런 스피시픽 무슨 냠내 집이네 가라 패체 색직 니도지 뭐도 용구요 말이스 색 가네
So, uh, in this way, we practice to overcome our attachment and aversion. And so, if we look at all the different Dharma instructions, for instance, the Dharma instructions that are the translations of the Buddhist teachings, the Dharma instructions that are the translations of the commentaries on the Buddhist teachings, the Kanjur, the Tenjur, and so forth. It's really interesting when we go to practice all those vast spectrums of teachings, and we look at cause and effect and subtle detail, even though there's all these teachings, ultimately in meaning, there's nothing more than just one or two, a few words.
어다디니 당이 콘티유다 갈고 요새는 스템 변나 차샤요다 제지는 가서 돈이 남는 되게 다 제탕 그 정도와 돈이 인지 송돈 좀 세야 배치 디나올 배 참고 위해서
So, what do we need? We can say that the ultimate nature of the mind is emptiness, and uniting that emptiness with compassion, the inseparable union of emptiness and compassion, that is it.
어다디니 다 가서 돈이 지리 다그 냠슬래는 가서 다 냠발 샤와 잭당 근데 그 가서보다 knowledge wisdom kind of understanding 기 당이 공티와나 이래 제가 저 그다나 ordinarily 지 차단 그다 똑같이 온 거래 야고 섬노 땅비는 그 차단 똑같이 하더라 그 돈발에 맞어 베게 안돼 나저게 지 루인데라 그러와 다 대물을 램버데 다 맞어 그지 common karma 지 물 거란 지 맞어 서로 뭐로 통나로 지 지바 통고요래 rate yin yang, tengoने rangi mare, ro, tengoने mare. Tene tate mayin baji. Tega nangi ngatsu kita tanda dik number tokso khandi ji yuwe na yang te ko ta ko zumana wale rawa. Wa ta tene tin ba ha ko ti ta knowledge side rawa, understanding. Ta practicing side karisana ta ngone chine ngatsu nyamja ga ne to ko ta. Rawa. Chi sem mayin ba. Ta telada chirang so samha ko gure hinene yang ro chi tene 직 셈의 희회 희네네와 대가양 직 셈남 도매와 기분 마인베 고 가서 직 셈을 세케니 로직 보다 디강된 샤고고요레스.
So when we practice in this way, then we gain a knowledge and we come to understand that attachments and aversions and all these different objects that we experience in reality are ultimately empty. Of course, relatively, we've all taken, in common, we've taken human births, and so we experience this human world in a similar way. We, see things as, external objects. This thing is red, this thing is made of metal, this thing is made of wood. This is, this thing and that shape, this thing and that shape, and so forth. However, ultimately, even though outwardly it seems that these things appear and are real, ultimately their intrinsic nature is uh, false. They're like an illusion. And so when we practice and cultivate uh, this practice in our minds, when we bring our mind to a state of calm abiding and rest, then we see that all these different concepts that we've had in our mind about all these different things in reality, ultimately, these are just concepts and they are ultimately inherently empty.
어디 다 가서 디 간디스 통거스는 가서 참말라 직 human 배는 common karma 때문에 가서 human 데 이차기도 어디 this kitchen 보여래. 근데 한 contribution 나기를 가서 다 직 가서 collection karma 때문에 가서 human being 고 서버 통나 서버로 오지 통되기로 와. 이내야 다티 점세 가서나 티 가서 통야디 직 양 들어가 나신 가서 collection 라오요 참말라 히 너자 해당 데모 나자 저도 요러 티니다 나서티 통야게 직 단다 통야들 티스 뉴몬베케 다 니지요 나자지 티 요벌라 때네 다 가서 통되기로 와 통나 직바로 통고다 나서 참마 후메빈 참말이 요러 당가 해 다동니 그 강래야 니 도자트니 요래 페나테송도 와 베가서다 보베케 나나 테메나 텐티요 치바 나년지이나 이니 고 참마 서보로 이렇게 통고해서 와 이니 고 나타리 마토비 파기데 서보 때문에 참마 서보 말아 보다 뒤에서는 가서다 지 고치과로 가서 나사지 그 용몽빈 차다지 요가 좀 센터를 된다 가서 스튜디오에 가서 와 이나다디 야고삼도다나 더 추이돼야 더 참마 당가서 지 상방 년당 야당 도당 세야디지 나고 추가로 진사로 와
So, on one hand, it's important and useful to be able to see things how, we all collectively see things in the human realm. And, you know, looking at the color, for example, of yellow and seeing it as yellow is useful when we are discussing colors and so forth. It's nice to be able to have this collective understanding. However, it's also important to understand that due to our afflictive emotions, due to desire, due to aversion, due to pride, ignorance, jealousy, these things color our experience of reality. And just like a sickness, for instance, when people have like jaundice, like in Tibetan, it's tripa illness, um, kind of like a type of fiery bile illness. But when we have like jaundice, then we see things externally. Everything takes on this yellow tint, this kind of yellow hue. And so it is due to an illness that we experience this type of negative, this type of yellowness. Um, and so this is an example that shows us that it is through our afflictive emotions and so forth that we experience things outwardly. We might think, oh, this thing is good, this thing is bad, this thing is right, this thing is wrong. However, it's our afflictive emotions ultimately are coloring our entire spectrum of experience.
다 대가 나기 가서 다 지금 로긴 거로 차 맥시오미나 파르조파지 행동으로 요나 되네 그 말이 오다 그 행동으로 요나 그 먼저 통그러 뭐 인사리 삼그러 이나 그 뭐마로 아 그거 행동으로 다 직jal라 타한다고 다양 그 맥시오미나 가리나 메이나 행이나 오다디 메이사리 삼그러 이거다 추는 거로 그 맥 통고 말 고파기라 행동으로 뭐마로 But the tea solo, for example, nga someone jiken di na la, nga so tea chi tu no yu sarwa, cha dang si yo de tu no ngone marwa.
Mhm. So, um, in the same way that sometimes if our eyes aren't, sharp, or, there's various conditions that obstruct our vision, we might gaze off and see something and it looks like a person. And we think, oh, there's a person over there. But really, it's a tree. Or we might see something and think, oh, that's a tree. But really, it's when we, find out what it is, it turns out to be a person. And so our experience of reality shifts due to our accuracy of perception. We can mistake, in this way, a tree for a person sometimes. And so this confusion, this delusion that we experience is something that colors our entire experience of everything we encounter. Everything is colored through this delusion, through our attachments and our aversion.
어다 디인이 다 돈다데 단다 공시원나 이다 가서 돈이 인기 송도 좀 색트가라래 레라워래 가서 줄래 요래 이나야 다 조체요데 가서 양 단 공시원나 이래 가서 다 가서 그 delusion 세나래 가서 기타 지 추와지 요와 추와의 사야라양 투소고그로와 대랑상상으로 이게 선말이 디인이다 제가 저 배나 차단 그 똑같이 매와 차라 레라오미도 다 티인도 또 좋은 거다 갈고도서나 include myself to so much 냠랭치 야다가 거지 familiar 디스틱 공원에 통해 focus 지고 위해서 토마토 베게 제가 저하 권하러 와야 다 거지 맞아 데 배나 차샤완 단다 직텐디나 강요바데 직 그와레 덴바트로메도 섬게 요르테는요 섬게 라 다동양 지 고 차동 그 똑같이 얘기 미비나 고 테마이나 양 고제와 치마 칼레 보다 기념도 고 양 그런 참로 위해서와 딘디인도 다 가서 지 차동 그 똑같이 매와 치와라 고지 투투 둔 거야 제가 되네 고 familiar 지고야 다 제가 대성도 방고 그러와 야차 어다 들랍니까
Um, and so, of course, what I said earlier about the union of emptiness and compassion, that really is the essence of, the practice, our goal. However, um, this delusion, this confusion that we experience, in the meantime, is not something that we can just immediately clear away. Uh, Everyone, including myself, uh, for ourselves, our practice is uh, to become more and more familiar with this ultimate nature of reality. Um, and in the this world that we experience, we do have an experience of things as being real. And because of that, we wander around in cyclic existence.
다 디인도 다 텐디지 고 카르세고다 단나 콘티오나 이레 에치 오다 데리 케치모리 디인도 되네 제상 가서 대서 못 당고 그래 다 가서 제반들는데 오 다동야 차방지도 선반다고지 차방 매와다 차가요 말 som마다 차가요 말 카스나 가서 르인들고 프로베나 르리안디 요로 얘네요 다 개체쇼지 카스나 다 가서 딱 봐요 기베 향이 요래 직트 정도와 직 교체모 많이 봐라 남도 요래 서 남도 양 가서 다직 도도 튜냠 세나 직 남도 샤데 대가 깨지 찍을 양 고 매와 차 투구 메비나 양 당가서 제당가서 어다티 maybe this is better 이네 양 가서 not expecting 당가 차나도 봐 가면 너 삼바지가 용 투구 말레스 용 그레스 이네 양고 그가 나이게 다 단단가서 직 레 탐보 봐라 직 도도 튜냠지도 직 남도 샤바 들어가라나 저토다 가보레스 이나양 개체쇼데 직 단계게 직 남도 디게 직 왕도 효네 남도 디게 것지 가서 왕조치다 텐디치 마타와지 고거스 나서지 라와디 시오바라고지 나서 남도 디지 강이요 남도 샤거 이나양 남도 참샤나 샤야 요와 알와 남도 디 조조당 땅야 요와 보다 텐디지 단계 파트 고고요사레스 대요비나 내가 저지 센데이나요 고 라라마 요한다고지 차디요레 대가 나이야 치마야 되네지 고 가선지 막 코르베나 틴도야 그때 누가 고와 요마와 와한테마서 체려와 대인들이 지금 나서 라마 요들이 지만에 코르발라서 조나야 제만도야 틴만도야 되는 용고요사레스 대인들이 조 가선나다 마치 가세고래 라마지 요르와 단다 라마 타위는 치마 라마 탑차르와
So, in this way, in general, all of us who have taken up births, we have attachments and aversions. If we didn't have attachments and aversions, we wouldn't need to take a birth. But those of us who have taken birth, we are here with attachments and aversions. And so the key thing, though, is to practice so that they aren't as strong. And we might think, as beginners, and even later into the path, we might think, well, they're always going to be here. There's no, freedom from, my afflictive emotions and attachments and aversions. That's not the case. We shouldn't think that way, because even though we might not expect that we will be able to overcome them at one point in time, eventually, through our practice, we will get to a point where, as our thoughts arise, they are simultaneously liberated. Um, this can happen and will happen if we practice. So that's important for us to recognize. But for us beginners on the path and so forth, it can be kind of difficult to really experience this and gain this realization. And so the main thing is that we do not become overpowered by our afflictive emotions, our attachments and aversions, that we gain strength and freedom with the power of our minds, so that even though different types of discursive thoughts arise, we are not overpowered by them. And so in this life, we've been born and we've, developed this experience based on our previous karma. However, if we're able to practice this way, and if we can gain the power and freedom of our own minds, then our next life and experiencing a future birth, on one hand, we may, this power, if we continue to practice, this power grows less and less. Also, too, if we gain complete freedom and mastery and control over our own minds, then we can liberate ourselves from even needing to take a future birth. We don't need to be born in that way.
오다 디인도 테레다 대원나다 단다 공투가 이래 되네 즉 샘디 다 단기 공투가 이래 직문에 샘들지 네즉 차강 공원도 만도와 되네 샘들지 네 되네위 qabla 되네 뒤게 즉 샘들이 스파 타만도지 차비나 냐 되네 랑이게 되네 닝지제야 되네 랑이게 즉 닝지제위나 닝게 티 뉴페 top 되게 되게 양 가서고 렌데스야지 하고야 어다 되게 연구요서와 되게 첨보레스.
So, in this way, as I said before, essentially, we should strengthen our minds so that we do not become overwhelmed and carried off by our afflictive emotions of attachment and aversion and so forth. And in a state of the peace of the mind, then the experience, for example, of compassion can arise very easily. And when we cultivate compassion, the power of compassion, through this, then we are able to gain a deeper understanding of things like cause and effect and so forth. And so this is an important thing to really cultivate.
어다 대가 얘기 되네다 대개 첨보레 되네 든리지 종비나 되네다 제가가서 단 공투가 이래 다샘 범자야 개침보리 근데 대단 냠들라 땅가서 단다 되래 뭐람 야가 개침보리 뭐람 세야 되다 즉 단다야 되네 다 history 가서 요러와 베나 상제다 장접 선바도 소케 즉 history 따위나 되네 이 마음베게 심전 동치야라 심전 그 노동줘야 돼 단다야 되네 제가 불외나는 내대에 가려 되니 모nom자가 배 개침고 휴이사라와 얘네들이 이제 모놈 야심진에 팬토도 삼베케 모놈데 다 단단가 좀 모놈 배만 보여래 되네 직성도 모놈라서 배대 모놈만 보여다 되니 되네 모놈자가 개침보래 되니 뒤토네 되네 제가 상제다 다 라마태양 다 되니 조금 같다 상이 휴는 되기래다 거기 샘디 가서고래 직 주바당 되네 대소 대박 칸데스 제고와당 대박집이 배용한다고 선이 휴기 되는다 저거 가서 나타난다 대다 아주 주님의 공자야 달로야야 르드네 고 공자가 되게 전부 인사를 되는다 지양 physical 계직 차대야라 소바디스 갈레가 보러와 되는 텔레야 내가요 말에 되는 대단 념들라더니 다 모는 되게 전부 인사를 다 가서 지금 그 몸 베게 심지어 통치고나 되니 모는 되게 되고 모는 간이 담는데 sooner or later personal kuti tonda drop to you so was in your partner with 통치야
So it's important to practice, as I've been discussing. And also, in addition, with this practice, it's also important that we make aspirations and prayers. And so there's a history that we can understand that all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas of the past cultivated the prayers and aspirations to benefit beings in the future. And all Buddhas were thus born through such prayers and aspirations, wishing to benefit sentient beings. And so we ourselves should remember to cultivate these prayers and aspirations, and we can recite the prayers like the Manjushri prayer for excellent conduct, and all these other wonderful prayers that there are. And so this is really important. And so when we think about Buddhas and the life stories of Buddhas and so forth, and give rise to faith and devotion in these teachers and Buddhas, then this inspires us to practice. And when we practice, sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes there are physical difficulties with practicing and so forth. However, even though we might experience such temporary difficulties, still it's important to make aspirations again and again to want to help sentient beings. And through those aspirations, one day, if we continue to make aspirations and prayers, one day we will accomplish those prayers and aspirations and really begin to help sentient beings in an ultimate way.
Tinda nga zo tedo tero da kitang ko chi nyamle chitang yang di sa da mandawa ro yosarawa mandasena pena lo chungjo ina car focus chi gure lo chembo ina car focus chi gure is da mandawa yosares.
So in general, for practice, there are some differences. There are differences, for people who might be in younger ages and those who are in greater ages.
Tinita bena nga da kasang daram sandro de yawan buche la long life ne ceremony chiga ngandro de tendi tene ta namju no ina jawaran buche ma ka chu to ina tene chikta ta ase gore chi hyong chenbo to la tene long tang hyong chenbo to ke kandi imba ta chu no tene ka shu nang yo wa 다 뭐지 가서 고마 채마라 소바다 그래서 얘네 양다 다른 뭐지 코레 개념래 강 드니지다 단다 가르송 거서는 당이 공치와 나기래다 돈이 공부래 돈이 인지니고 텔레양 쏠동치 스타 테마도 휴지기다 고지 바송금도 대리 땅가 솔로 게르로나 다 휴지 로중체 되네 제고 마다 채마다 다도 디스카고로 인다 원의 preparation ora ngone mus nyamna chia tala tene tangi konshwa toni ingi keta nyamna thagara tene nango sares.
So for example, when I went to Dharmasala for the long life practices and ceremonies for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then the Dalai Lama gave Dharma teachings and instructions. And so he did give elaborate teachings on the middle way, Madhyamaka, the different instructions and teachings on logic and reasoning and so forth. However, really the essence of all of those.
No, he was young, so the main focus, right? So those teachings. Okay.
Oh,
All right now,
so
okay.
so when he was younger, in his younger ages,
Always teaching, so
he
he's
would
teaching.
teach these elaborate Madhyamaka teachings and teachings on logic and reasoning and so forth. However, um, these days, he teaches more the essence of the union of emptiness and compassion.
Mm.
Because it's difficult as the mind kind of progresses into older age to really go through all those elaborate details of logic and reasoning and all that.
Right, so if you're very young, maybe 20 years old, then we can get started those things. We can teach them. Yeah, in order to some maybe teach, yes, have to learn in whatever chords, or who is compose and the details. So that's good, this benefit to other beings. So, and now, uh, like we have become older, so maybe we don't have that much time for learning, teaching, so on. So, release the practice, just essence, the focus essence of practice, right? So, same way, nga kazan diye de nga chen rinpo che de ne long lab ceremony do yo de ten ta rinpo che ta ka chu nang ko rin da ko ton da te ma dong xie da ste ka chu zong yang men do wa da de ke pe ke chen mo sa de sta na so lo ya len na.
So I was just recently with Gurchen Rinpoche for his long life ceremony, and similarly, Gurchen Rinpoche was teaching just these essential key points.
嗯，我在第六，但我呢，开钱不修嘞，第六，但我做你说那一类，ko physical 嘅，但ko kale gain 到会有嘞，ko 开始 decreasing，差到过话的，ko normal 嘞，nature 嘞，te la ko iho mare ina yang ko sem ke to ne ta nyam le focus chia de chi to gu yo ta ko om ja to gu yo de sam no tang to gu yo de te ne ta de ke che min sa res.
Um, and so outwardly, um, our physical bodies do age, and we do experience, all the different, you know, difficulties and issues with growing older, and that's just natural. That happens. However, inwardly, in our minds, our focus can be meditation.
So okay, so now we can start improvement. So first here like something dharma offering. So Om Bengane Dare Da Om Be Om Mazo Baba Jeda Sarva Dharma So Baba Jeda Han Dom Ba Ni De Jero Dom Bengane Om Le Rinpo Che Nung Yang Yang Jia Jia Wa Nam Je Nong Do Om Ma A Wong U De Yo Wa Le Cheng Me Dom Ma Dang Ye To Ba Mi Ba Sa Ba Mi Ba De Wa Che Bre Je Ji Ni Nunga danyam barai cho umagara mukum sarva dharmane adene na du dhamma gong pe so va umagara mukum sarva dharmane adene na du dhamma gong pe so va umagara mukum sarva dharmane adene na du dhamma gong pe so Name sarvada da ngada valo gede uma sambara sambara hum name sarvada da ngada valo gede uma sambara sambara hum name sarvada da ngada valo gede uma sambara sambara hum jumde di gwaran jamona jamde di gwaran de da mala di gwaran jamne la chang de lo di gwaran ji gwaran je yong se de wa la chang ta lo la chang tse lo kan yin tse mo ju wa ye ju bo nong dang xia za dang sin bo xia jia sa wa dang sim jian no ba no do dang ju yin ge lo so ne bi da 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 la dong ma ne sa wa ya jiang no bo dang le jian de mo bo dang ju ban li ye bu ju la no be sa ba xia wa sim jian nong la bian bei zhen ten li jin yi ji bu la jin yi jin yi jin yi du ne chu ju jin du yin yang da dang la song ba ju ju bo yun la jie ba gong wo de jian long ju jian de ye zhen de dong zong jie min jie zhen ma me zo ye song ma ge jiang de wo dang ye zhen da be ya long da xian la no ba一节我们听我听了刚才给对了，我们班的计划，你等一会儿送走了，东秋让给你是定十万不当给他上，不弄就得这个让给送。那我来他们街的桥外经玩玩成为等于他们街都街泡汤，第一个弄到了这汤，第一我他们街都街设计，第一我的桥他们街都街桥外经不同。대다람쥐 환삼만 나마 돌젠다에 자와당 7월제 돌제라와 뒤에 7월의 이시제 매봉 할미 매봉 다음이바 대매제도 조란 발행 토과 중년 콜로 양신자체와 조 오메데는 반반반데 벤자 나다 가라 안데 Sada zola tam sam bam banadola analaga hum hum die 다 디슈글라 맞다 제타 다 저런 저 상미 하고 그래 되는 거서 다 딕뎁 장야 손에 다 제타 저 왕기 통달라 제타다 단 컨티슈어나디 조데 모두 제야리 이나 다 거지 좀 신데 로비나 되네 뭐 딕바 장야 손다 딕바 장 손데 다가 저게 지 줄라 되네 요비케 되네 루가 이좀지 개사야게 딕바 잡아 다담지 다 ko jeban da zama yin ba jeba kuma mi ga kan sa wa ta dan ji ne jambar yang zo go le jambar che wa kan dis jang go le slavina ne rang ji go zo do je sam ba gong ne do je sam ba da na so do je sam ba cha ji ma lo ko wa ta lo be ka la ne te do je sam be ke ta ji to ke ne 이게 jawa ho ne thi ke ne 이게 ki du chi ne 돌리sem비 협의에 통원으로 창원을 쇼 되는 창원을 뭐 되게 참아 강안에 되는 거죠 되게 루이당나가 이제 사비 되게 받던지 되네 제 오고 당라 뭐 와서 치료통 되네 랑그 루이티고 이 시기도 지 강에 고 정승인로 되네 이제 차선 상관하고 나왔어
So then now, we're going through the empowerment, and so probably many of you are familiar with the stages of the empowerment. And so here there is the practice of purifying our negative deeds and obscurations. And so for the practice of purifying our negative deeds and obscurations, we do the practice of Vajrasattva. And we do this to purify all the negative deeds and obscurations of our ordinary body, speech, and mind. And so, not only do we do these, do this to purify our current body, speech, and mind, but all the negative deeds and obscurations that we have accumulated since the beginning of beginningless cyclic existence until now, we seek to purify these all. And to do this, we meditate on Vajrasattva. So let us meditate on Vajrasattva on the crown of our heads. And as we recite the mantra of Vajrasattva, then in Vajrasattva's heart center, there is the 100-syllable mantra spinning around the seed syllable. And from that, primordial wisdom nectar, luminous, brilliant primordial wisdom nectar streams down and fills Vajrasattva's body. And then from Vajrasattva's big right toe, then this streams into our central channel. And as this streams into our central channel, it streams down, filling up our entire body, and it clears away all the negative deeds and obscurations of our body, speech, and mind. And all of these exit out through our lower doors, and our body becomes completely filled with luminous, brilliant, primordial wisdom, nectar, and we become the same as Vajrasattva.
O che dar zong bo zong je ne lo no je ne tu so ro da la ye che ne da ba yin de yin da ge go te o ma zo wa da da ga da be kan ga de sa ma ya ye ye o Yandara sado samaya manu balaya Yandara sado dino ba de da de do me Sudo kayo me bawa Subo kayo me bawa Anarado me bawa Sarva se de me baraya Sarva karma sudha me Siddha ye yo guru Bhagavan Sevadada Bandarama Bhimada Bhava Mahasamaya Sadhu Avam Bendara Sadhu Samaya Madhudalaya Bendara Sadhu Dino Bhadeda Dedo Meba Asudo kayo me bawa, subo kayo me bawa, anurado me bawa, tarpa se de me baraya. Akarma sudha me te de she yang guru. Aha, Bhagavan Sarva Dada Pandarama me manda. Mendra Bhava Mahasamaya Sadhu Mendra Sadhu Samaya Madhya Mendra Sadhu Dino Bhadita Dedo Mepa Masudo Kayo Me Bhava Sudo Kayo Me Bhava Anurado me bhava sarva siddhi me paraya Asarva karma sudha me siddhi yaya guru Ahaho Bhagavan Sevadada Mandarama me manda benda bhava mahasamaya sadhu da tieni di xiu le da nga zo je dang wang nang ro qi si da xiu ge je dang nga zo da ji kar se go re san ji jum den de tong bong go zu du ne kar se go da nga zo ji mang zo no ji ro rang ro ji re do wa tieni ta ma do da comme ça mal ma chu na de ya ni yo sa mar wa kar se na ko ji mu ken do ba la dun ji de ne 다 디크 콜로 솔로 오신데 다 와마로 나송 거래 다디 티니 제타다나다 고송 토기스 돈 메케테네 고송 토게테네 와 나로 나 세야 되테네 텔레야테네 인도지 치브레스
So then next there is a request for the empowerment. And so in the tradition of secret mantra and bestowing empowerments, um, it's not that the lamas and so forth just go around and give empowerments to people who don't want them. There is a tradition where they are only given to people who want the empowerments. And so part of the empowerment is to really want it. And so part of the ceremony is to request the empowerment, to really cultivate the intention of, I really want to receive this. And so we will recite this prayer, and essentially the meaning of this prayer is a request for the empowerments of the enlightened body, speech, and mind of Tara.
对，那做那嘛，关键一些通过间使用的，他关键是那浪嘛的，他得高压些上头，其他一些当的一些个当你听的意思，听的人他视频可能俺们中啊是，他得开钱过来，他俺说的就可能着我就考的，他考就考这个吧，我这可能着，但那也，他俺说这个牛毛班的，个往牛毛班的听的，他空调啊那些的，我恰当着我听的这里呢。ko tindi ho degrees ko ti kan ko lo tele yang ti chilo lan do tu yo marwa tindi siba na da siba se dan ko ba se ho lo degrees tindi ta tanda choran ke wan na mo tu chi na ma tu ta ko ba tindi ya ta tu yo wa o tindi ta siba che tang kam song ko ba re tu la so yo ta kanda kan yin men tindi ta ko ba tindi ya ta ya ki chi tu la tindi ta choran ga chi 탑 갈 때거나 즉 노른도 림보치 나신비 게더니 다 텐디지야 나세야 게더니 휴게사데 에스테가 담보 저기 법배가 등마 니치는 릭사레니 인지가 등마지 치긴스
부 Pukela Tengmani Injige Machi. So we are going to recite this prayer, embodiment of omniscient wisdom, precious Lord, who has today set forth the jewel-like means to purify cyclic existence. Please bestow your kindness upon me. And so here, the embodiment of omniscient wisdom. This refers to the Buddha. In this case, we regard the Vajra Master as the nature of the Buddha who understands the nature of reality as it truly is. And so we ask them to set forth the means to purify cyclic existence. And so here we are seeking a liberation from cyclic existence. And so with primordial wisdom, the Buddhas are freed from cyclic existence. They are outside of the cycle, the wheel of ordinary existence. And so we are seeking means for ourselves to also become free from that. They are able to do that because they are free. And so we ask for them to grant us those means so that we too can free ourselves from cyclic existence. So please grant that today. So we'll do this one time or two times in Tibetan and one time in English.
So repeat after me. Kun chen ye xie,
Kun Chen Ye
hong bo jian,
Hong Bo Chen,
zi bian ko lo,
Si Bei Korlo,
nam jong wa,
Nam Zong Wa,
he ren yi bei,
Derin Shi Bei,
rin qian de,
Ren Shin Ki,
do da la,
So Dala,
ga zhi zo,
Karen So,
kun chen ye xie,
Kung Ken Ye She,
hong bo jian,
Hong Bo Chen,
zi bian ko lo,
Si Bei Korlo,
nam jong wa,
Nam Zong Wa,
he ren yi bei,
Derin Shi Bei,
rin qian de,
Ren Shin Ki,
do da la,
So Dala,
ga zhi zo.
Karen So. Embodiment of omniscient wisdom.
Embodiment of omniscient wisdom.
Precious Lord, who has today
Precious Lord, who has today
set forth the jewel-like means
set forth the jewel-like means
to purify cyclic existence.
to purify cyclic existence.
Please bestow your kindness upon me.
Please bestow your kindness upon me.
다 디지라 너다 넥 빼면서 개 첨보리 된다 왕나야리 인연내 체야리 땅가 저제탕 인라 나라고리 인라 등라고리 오다 디인도 텔레카스나다 직 단다 되네 그런만 와 직라마 되네 예미 비킨 두라 tene tambong ta dekwa so dekwa ya en kong tuwa nang yeri lunga rang jewa toma mi ba ne sa hya be ke tene dekwa de ya den du da zo ka zena dekwa de ta tene sam dang de dekwa de ya to bu yo na mi na sam gar ba na dekwa ya to bu de ka zena ma zo chi ro ba ma zo dekwa ma zo chi bu de lunga yi som ji ko ne dekwa ma zo chi bu de dekwa na yi ma zo lunga yi som ji mo sem ke teng ne ro ba wo ching jo sha chi na ma zo ya to bu de dekwa ya ba 대가 나기다 개발의 지수이라고 송거래. 개발의 지수이라고 해야지. 뭐네 자치 뭐 쉬우래. 뭐제게 야보지 치료요나 뭐 지수이랑 치고래. 지수이랑 치발할 때는 뭐 파리오게 개발하는 거 특구요 와. 인디네 개발의 지수이랑 치와스. 얘네 대가 나이 창조 쪽도 생기 봐스. 창조 쪽도다 생기 동 생기 봐. 얘네 계획이 자와 창조 동호와 뭐와 치아래. 어다 티 당가 저 당가 남다 라고래 이랑 라고요래 어떻게 되더니 대 예노나야레스.
So, then now, we are going to do what is called uh, the 5 branches, and here, this includes taking refuge in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and really taking refuge to attain enlightenment. And in order to do that, we need to purify all our negative deeds and obscurations and so forth. And part of the process of that is to openly confess all our non virtues and negative deeds. And so, through doing so, we can go beyond our past mistakes and purify those. And then we rejoice in the virtues of all other sentient beings. And when we rejoice in the virtues of other sentient beings, then through that happiness in their virtue, then we share in that merit. And then we also cultivate bodhicitta, and then likewise we dedicate all the virtue to enlightenment. And so together, let us do these 5 completely pure branches of prayer.
So maybe once on Tibetan, 2 times English. So repeat after me. Oncho zomla. Dao chamje.
Dakyapchi,
Dekwa mege.
Dikpa Mige,
Sosorya.
Soso Sha,
Dovi gela.
Drowe Gela,
Yerang.
Jera,
Sanje chancho.
Sanjay Chanchu,
Yije song.
Yikizu,
Sanje chodang.
Sanjay Churang,
Songcho la.
Sochola,
Ancho varta.
Changchu Bardu,
Dajamche.
Dakyapchi,
Rangyan tongni.
Rangshin Duni,
Rab ropcher.
Rapdrup Chair,
Chanchob semne.
Chanchup Semni,
Chi barje.
Chebarji,
Chanchom choke.
Chanchup Choke,
Temni chi jene.
Semni Chichine,
Temchen tamchi.
Semshin Tamshe,
Daken zhongtunyer.
Daki Drundunyar,
Chanchob gyoncho.
Chanchup Chumcho,
Yung chi barje.
Yeon Chiparchi,
Lola pencher.
Dola Pinche,
Sanjen lo barko.
Sanjay Druparsho. So then, in English, I go for refuge unto the 3 jewels.
I go
I confess every non-virtue and misdeed.
as every non-virtue and misdeed.
I rejoice in the virtues of wanderers. In my mind, I hold on to awakening.
In my mind, I will
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Great Assembly, I take refuge till enlightenment is reached. To accomplish the aims of self and others, I shall arouse the mind of awakening. Having aroused the mind of great awakening, as my guests, I shall take care of every being. I shall practice pleasing bodhisattva conduct. May Buddhahood be achieved to help all beings. I go for refuge unto the three jewels. I confess every non-virtue and misdeed. I rejoice in the virtues of wanderers. In my mind, I hold on to awakening. In the Buddha Dharma Great Assembly, I take refuge till enlightenment is reached. To accomplish the aims of self and others, I shall arouse the mind of awakening. Having aroused the mind of great awakening, as my guests, I shall take care of every being. I shall practice pleasing bodhisattva conduct. May Buddhahood be achieved to help all beings.
Tene da terwa da di ke chembore da nga zo nga ke yela nga songole ne da do ke tene da yela dung songorwa da di nyamlen che ya sonam sa ya te pe ma si wi ke chembore da da dan do la nga zo tene di teng aspiration kang le yorwa yela dung bas tele yore te pe ma si wi ke tatantine ti nyamde te sombojubi molam di jarbos odati beke chembore stinu tati nala ngazoda zo dangi kontuba na yi ngazoji chaja chembo tokwa kieta ma jetela ada ke taba tiga na yi ke sonam ke jatenji bogi ore sonam ke jatentela tene tatanda yina dumba pe ke chemboda nyamata ke nyamnya chingan ga hi yina dumbara sade gu yosarawa tende tene mutan dina yina dumbena be chatawani chadi yores.
So here we have done this 5 branches of prayer, and this is done in the tradition of secret mantra. Generally, in the tradition of sutra, one would do the 7 branches of prayer, and this is common. One would find this in, for example, the aspiration prayer of Manjushri. And so both of these are ways that one accumulates a vast amount of virtue and merit, and these are supportive practices to accumulate merit and so forth. And so we should understand that all the essence of the 7 branches and so forth is contained within what we've recited.
Ri tene terla imete kaste ngaso di sambojubi molam nangla yores anjuk molam rawa
Right, te lapsong.
oda tini ta zo karsi na nga zo sanjuk molam di en konso mambu je kita nima takpa tsari dongu yorwa te pe mesi kechen bode tini ta nga zo namju harchi yore sina magic tronsona ta trondo ngenti ke lama la labu yorta molam jabro chi slabu yore ta lama to ke jetan ta changjo se ya ka ye cheya yore yin ya zo de molam yin bare ta molam tinang la ta ji jetan da molam mambo yorwa ngazo sanchu se ya chamo se ya chambi molam rowa tene jonjuk molam tene jambe yank molam tene dewa jenk molam jenese ke molam wapami ke molam kundu sombo ke molam ta tene molam chimo se aje yore yang molam pe ringboji tene ta molam pe mambo yorwa molam mambo yor tene tanda ta pena ta tadong de sola ta ngaso tela gudo ajik majik thong song ne molam jaro chi labdu ta lama to molam kharja go molam so jag yore ti na ne molam ke che hyode eta na king aspiration ti molam te jag yore ti indu ta ti molam java te pengrwa ina kong ro ne tele pen to yore yina yang ta tanda ngaso mai ngula in life lo mai hi ngola individually tene molam te jamna tene ni maji hi ne ka la ta ko familiar hiro na maji molam jamna te pe thalame yungro ti indu ta thanda nga zo ke chi kharse gore molam te la tezola familiar hida mi bi na yang mana ji theba chimbo hi yo na ha kon ro yo salama la theba chimbo yo na ha ko yo sarwa ina tene lama la yang theba chimbo hida mi bi na tene jik la me molam jabi na yang ko jik ta pento da ye yor wa ina yang hiu jik be ta ta ya ngon tho ya ka bo yo sar wa tin di tine da ke che hyo de tanda nga zu life ma hi bi ngo la tine molam da so ta ye ta molam cha sa na lo to mar wa ina yang ken wa aspiration do tine lo de bi na tine ta thom ne ka la rang tho gre kese rang de 제가 나이 라마지 기때요 지금 뭐는 돈한테네 그런 거 딱한 보고 있어요. 어떻게 지금 있어res.
So, in particular, this king of aspiration prayers for excellent conduct. This prayer is something that we should really, if we can, recite every single day. This can be a daily practice, and it really contains the essence of all those branches of prayer. And if somebody dies, there is this tradition of asking lamas and so forth to pray for the deceased. And what does the lama do? In essence, one of the main things that they recite is the prayer for this king of aspiration prayers for excellent conduct. Of course, there are also other famous prayers that are recited. The prayer for the way of the Bodhisattva, the Dewa Chen prayer, the prayer for Sukhavati, the Chenrezi, the Avalokiteshvara prayer, the prayer of Amitabha, the prayer of Kuntuzampo, Samantabhadra, the great prayer, the Monlam Chemo, and so forth. There's many different types of prayers. However, in essence, the essence is really contained within this king of aspiration prayers for excellent conduct. And so, if we can recite this while we are still alive, then when we die, we'll be very familiar with this prayer, and we can follow it with our minds. And so, in general, if when we die, if there is like a lama who is reciting prayers for us, if we have great faith towards this lama and teacher, then we will recognize that and connect with that, and we can follow their prayers and so forth. But even if we don't have great faith and connection with such a teacher, if they are reciting this prayer, this King of Aspiration prayers for excellent conduct, then we will recognize the power of that prayer and be able to connect with the meaning of that prayer, regardless of our level of connection with the individual. And so, while we are still alive right now, to the degree that we are able, we should try to regularly recite this prayer, this King of Aspiration prayers for excellent conduct.
Yeah, Anne's doing, so I don't know how many years now. I think it is 3 years, right? 3 years. So that's actually very great, so to grow up, practice. So yeah, I said before, so if right now, of course, we some maybe died and the relatives say, okay, prayers for someone died. Yes, we do, so we prayers. Of course, they benefit, sure, but same time, no guarantee, there are a lot of causal conditions together, maybe someone person, really unshakable, faith, maybe it's easy to get connected, whatever lama. But even not. So this also the Lama says to prayer, and I said benefit, but if not really familiar, the prayer, so then harder, So if you aren't familiar, and then in Pado, like a bit, maybe they are confusing, whatever, a bit. But then really Lama do, or whatever Lama, or really it's not only Lama, like Sangha members or friends, something like connect, very easy to realize, So we just give the direction, oh, this is wrong time, just you can turn left, their road, So something like that, you can, driving, you have a car, so then okay, But if not familiar, maybe you don't know the driving or something, so, oh, maybe you're wrong way, okay, go this way, but still confusing what means the, Where, so same way, so really that's kind of the Dharma practice have to have like familiar the own thing, So not really showing outside, but so that's also this. There's I said that many different prayers, but I think King aspiration is amazing. So this very very kind of blessing, and powerful because this body suffers, so a lot of body suffers, they are connected. I think we can maybe stop here. So we not reach the main important, so we can do afternoon. So also I think the king of aspiration, king of aspiration say the 간디지 총벌에 라마 송폰 노르상 대야 디게다 코랑 chanchop semeki nyamlen chine netine koran lama jada chu en yorwa lama jada chu tene tene ta tana kun sambo tadi ko molam do mo to ngone chine ta chatan ko complete do chawa tene tan song hyo yorwa tan sangchu
The Song Kong Norzang, the
송폰 노르상
Chanchu Sampa Kitsen.
哎呀，
So, the we might wonder, where did this prayer come from? This prayer for the king of aspiration, prayers for excellent conduct, and this comes from the Bodhisattva Songkong Norzang. And
Not come from that. He's the
oh,
he looking for these prayers, but they
oh,
come from the Gunsambo.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
He was looking for this prayer,
Mhm.
and he de Tsalkikap la con lama gyatang chu la tembare.
Mhm.
Dene teki jema de monam.
That's Gunsambo song 여러분.
Uh-huh.
Or
So
maybe I can say this, maybe.
yeah.
So who also he received Bodhisattva vows, I think from Buddha, and Sompo Norzang, one person. Maybe you make the corrections either. It's true, you make mistakes. So then I think the Kundu Sambo and the Minchuri there, I think maybe Buddha, something left somewhere, So then the Sompo Norzang asked the Minchuri, please teach me how to practice bodhisattvas, So then said the Minchuri, oh yeah, you're really good. You are practice bodhisattva. That's amazing. I appreciate it. You are really special. But not bad. I don't know, but so this is really, really kind of higher teachings. So the special teacher, he put the name, okay, he can teach, he can give the direction. So such, not exactly the direction, but sort of like, okay, somewhere the bodhisattva's name. So you go there. So then the Somponorzan he want, but very difficult to find like this and this and that. Very, very difficult. But he sacrificed, he practiced bodhisattva. So then he met this teacher. The teacher said, "Oh, really good, really good. You're really interesting, bodhicitta practice. You are really special, very good. I'm rejoicing. I appreciate you are special, but I cannot teach this high level. You have to go this teacher and something location, this name. And then, so like that, he 110 teachers. So the 110 teachers blessing, and then the last in the ensemble. Then he sort of teaching, but then the Sompo Norzang complete, to become bodhisattva. So this kind of aspiration is, teaching, but really aspiration he did. So like future his benefit. So this he did that 110 teachers. So that's why the Hokkien aspirations. There are many the aspiration prayers, I said, but this is most kind of blessing because of that this bodhisattva, how, so kind of collected, that blessing.